Cerro Guacha is a Miocene caldera in southwestern Bolivia's Sur Lípez province. Part of the volcanic system of the Andes, it is considered to be part of the Central Volcanic Zone, one of the three volcanic arcs of the Andes, and its associated Altiplano-Puna volcanic complex. A number of volcanic calderas occur within the latter. Cerro Guacha and the other volcanoes of that region are formed from the subduction of the Nazca plate beneath the South America plate. Above the subduction zone, the crust is chemically modified and generates large volumes of melts that form the local caldera systems of the APVC. Guacha is constructed over a basement of sediments. Two major ignimbrites, the 5.6 to 5.8 Maya Guacha ignimbrite with a volume of 1,300 cubic kilometers and the 3.5 to 3.6 Maya Tara ignimbrite with a volume of 800 cubic kilometers were erupted from Cerro Guacha. More recent activity occurred 1.7 Maya and formed a smaller ignimbrite with a volume of 10 cubic kilometers. The larger caldera has dimensions of 60 by 40 kilometers with a rim altitude of 5,250 meters. Extended volcanic activity has generated two nested calderas, a number of lava domes and lava flows, and a central resurgent dome. Geography and structure. The caldera was discovered in 1978 thanks to Landsat imagery. It lies in Bolivia next to the Chilean frontier. The terrain is difficult to access, being located at altitudes between 3,000–4,000 meters. The caldera is named after Cerro Guacha, a feature named as such by local topographic maps. Later research by the Geological Service of Bolivia indicated the presence of three welded tuffs. Paleogene red beds and Ordovician sediments form the basement of the caldera. Cerro Guacha is part of the Altiplano-Puna volcanic complex, an area of extensive ignimbrite volcanism in the central Andes between the Altiplano and the Atacama and associated with the Central Volcanic Zone of the Andes. Several large caldera complexes are found within this area, formed by crustal magma chambers generated by magmas derived from the melting of deep crustal layers. Present-day activity is limited to geothermal phenomena in El Tatio, Sol de Mañana and Guacha, with recent activity encompassing the extrusion of quaternary lava domes and flows. Deformation in the area occurs beneath Urutseg volcano north of the Guacha center. A westward-facing semicircular scarp contains subvertically banded Guacha ignimbrite layers rich in lithic clasts and is the presumable vent of the Guacha ignimbrite. The resulting caldera formed like a trapdoor and with a volume of 1,200 cubic kilometers is among the largest known. Volcanic structures are aligned along the eastern moat of this structure, which is filled by lacustrine deposits and welded ignimbrites. Another recent collapse was generated by the Tara ignimbrite eruption, with dimensions of 30 by 15 kilometers. The margins of the caldera graben structure are about 5,250 meters high, while the caldera floors are about 1,000 meters lower. Probably dacitic lava domes are found on the northern caldera rim, with the caldera floor possibly containing lava flows. The caldera contains a resurgent dome. The western part of it is formed by the Tara ignimbrite, while the eastern is part of the Guacha ignimbrite. This dome was cut by the Tara collapse, exposing 700 meters of Guacha ignimbrites. The resurgent dome in the caldera arises about 1.1 kilometers above the caldera floor. A second resurgence episode occurred inside the Tara caldera. The caldera is filled up to 1 kilometer thick with ignimbrites. 3 lava domes, roughly coeval with the Tara ignimbrite, are constructed on the northern side of the resurgent dome. The western dome is named Chajninta and is the most silica-rich of the domes. Rio Guacha in the middle is more dacitic. The Puripata-Chico lavas on the western side of the caldera are not associated with a collapse. Dark-colored lava flows are found to the southwest of the caldera. Some geothermal activity occurs within the caldera. Lord Ramey al. suggested that the heat from Guacha and Pastos Grandes may be transferred to the El Tatio geothermal system to the west. Geology. Guacha is part of a volcanic complex in the Bacarc region of the Andes in Bolivia. The central Andes are underlaid by the Paleoproterozoic Arequipa and Tofla terrain. The central Andes started to form 70 mi. Previously, the area was formed from a Paleozoic marine basin with some early volcanics. Since the Jurassic, subduction has been occurring on the western margin of present-day South America, resulting in variable amounts of volcanic activity. A short interruption of volcanism associated with a flattening of the subducting plate occurred in the Oligocene 35 to 25 mi. Subsequently, renewed melt generation modified the overlying crust until major volcanism, associated with a flare-up of ignimbritic volcanism, occurred 10 mi. 100 to 250 kilometers beneath the local volcanic zone lies the Benioff zone of the subducting Nazca plate. Recently, a change in volcanic activity away from ignimbritic towards cone-forming volcanism has been observed. Local Guacha caldera is part of the Altiplano-Puna volcanic complex, an igneous province in the central Andes covering a surface area of 70,000 square kilometers. Here, on an average altitude of 4,000 meters between 10 and 1 May, roughly 10,000 cubic kilometers of ignimbrites were erupted. Gravitic research indicates the presence of a low-density area centered beneath Guacha. The magmatic body underpinning the APVC is centered beneath Guacha. Guacha caldera is also closely linked to the neighboring La Pacarana caldera. The Guacha caldera forms a structure with the neighboring Cerro Panizos, Coranzueli and Valama calderas associated with a fault named the Lípez lineament. Activity along this lineament commenced with the Abra Granada volcanic complex 10 mi ago and dramatically increased more than 1 million years later. Volcanic activity is linked to this fault zone and to the thermal maturation of the underlying crust. After 4 million years ago, activity waned again in the Altiplano-Puna volcanic complex. Geologic record. The Guacha system was constructed over a time span of 2 million years with a total volume of 3,400 cubic kilometers. Eruptive activity occurred at regular intervals. Calculations indicate that the Guacha system was supplied by magmas at a rate of 0.007 to 0.018 cubic kilometers per year, located at a high altitude in an area of long-term arid climate has preserved old volcanic deposits over time. Thus, unlike in other areas of the world such as the Himalayas where water erosion governs the landscape, the morphology of the Altiplano-Puna volcanic complex is mostly tectonic in origin. Composition and magma properties. The Guacha ignimbrite is rheodacity and rich in crystals. The Chajninta lava dome contains sanidin, while Rio Guacha of dacitic composition contains amphibole and pyroxene. The Tara ignimbrite has a composition intermediary to that of these two domes, being andesitic rhyolithic. The Guacha ignimbrite contains 62 to 65% silicon peroxide, Puripacar 67 to 68%, and the Tara ignimbrite 63%. Plagioclase and quartz are found in all ignimbrites. Geological considerations indicate that the Guacha ignimbrite was stored at a depth of 5 to 9.2 kilometers and the Tara ignimbrite at a depth of 5.3 to 6.4 kilometers. Zircon temperatures are 716 degrees Celsius, 784 degrees Celsius and 705 degrees Celsius for Guacha, Tara and Chajnamta respectively. Climate. The climate of the central Andes is characterized by extreme aridity. The eastern mountain chain of the Andes prevents moisture from the Amazon from reaching the Altiplano area. The area is also too far north for the precipitation associated with the westerlies to reach Guacha. This arid climate may go back to the Mesozoic and was enhanced by geographical and orogenic changes during the Cenozoic. Oxygen isotope analysis indicates that the Guacha caldera ignimbrites have had little influence from meteoric waters. This is consistent with the climate of the Guacha region displaying long-term aridity for the last 10 years as well as with the scarcity of pronounced geothermal systems in the APVC which are essentially limited to the El Tatio and Sol de Mañana fields. Eruptive history. Guacha has been the source of eruptions with volumes of more than 450 cubic kilometers dense rock equivalents. These eruptions in Guacha's case have a volcanic explosivity index of 8. The close succession of multiple large-scale eruptions indicates that plutons feeding such eruptions are assembled over millions of years. The Guacha ignimbrite was first considered part of another ignimbrite named Artana ignimbrite. It has a minimum volume of 1,300 cubic kilometers and covers a surface area of at least 5,800 square kilometers. Several different dates have been determined on the basis of argon dating, including 5.81 plus or minus 0.01 on biotite and 5.65 plus or minus 0.01 Maya on sanidine, which is the preferred age. Various samples are separated by distances of up to 130 kilometers, making this ignimbrite among the most widespread in the Andes. One stream spread 60 kilometers northwards past Urutseg volcano along the Cana Valley until Sunny K era. Some ash deposits in the northern Chilean coast range are linked to the Guacha eruption. The Guacha ignimbrite was also known as Lower Tara at first. The later Tara ignimbrite forms the western dome of the Guacha caldera and spreads mostly north and southeast between Argentina, Bolivia and Chile. It has a minimum volume of 800 cubic kilometers and covers a surface area of at least 1,800 square kilometers in Chile and 2,300 square kilometers in Bolivia, where it was at first not recognized. Some outflows are more than 200 meters thick. Several different dates have been determined on the basis of argon dating, including 3.55 plus or minus 0.01 on biotite and 3.49 plus or minus 0.01 Maya on sanidine, which is the preferred age. The Chajnamta lavas and the Rio Guacha dome in the caldera have been KR dated at 3.67 plus or minus 0.13 and 3.61 plus or minus 0.02 Maya respectively. This ignimbrite ponded inside the Guacha caldera, and one particularly thick layer is found beneath Zapalleri stratovolcano. This ignimbrite was formerly known as Upper Tara. Geological considerations indicate that this ignimbrite formed from pre-existent melts and an influx of andesitic magma. The Puripata-Chico ignimbrite is known for having formed the Piedras de Dali Hoodoos, named like that by tourists because of the surreal landscape. It has a volume of 10 cubic kilometers and it was apparently erupted at the hinge of the Guacha caldera. It has been argon dated at 1.72 plus or minus 0.01 Ma, making it the youngest Guacha caldera vulcanite. The Puripacar ignimbrite has a volume of 1,500 cubic kilometers and is 4.2 Ma old. After research indicated that it was different from another ignimbrite named Artana. It was originally linked to the Guacha caldera, but Salisbury et al. In 2011 linked the Tara ignimbrite to Guacha instead. Another ignimbrite associated with Guacha is the Guataquina ignimbrite, named after Paso de Guataquina. It covers an area of 2,300 square kilometers and has an approximate volume of 70 cubic kilometers. It was later interpreted to be a combination of the Guacha, Tara and non-Guacha Artana ignimbrites.